Hey guys, what's up? Um, Missed everybody, and by everyone, I mean two or three people that log in to watch. I appreciate it. Um, Big summer break. 3 4 weeks feels like an eternity, but um, what happens? We get the Belgium Grand Prix. Tons of excitement, in my opinion. And then F1's right back for actually a 3 week header too. So Belgian Grand Prix was last week. Netherlands Grand Prix is this upcoming Sunday. And then we go to the iconic Monza the following week. So, big break right into 3 full weeks of racing. So super exciting stuff. I know I missed it, but I know I was definitely very happy to have it back. So, it was an exciting week. Today probably gonna have a slow show, or not a long show. A little bit to chat about here. Um, Not probably one of our longer ones, but to get right into it, what was grabbing headlines early was all the grid penalties that were announced. 5 drivers were taking grid penalties because of motor issues. If you don't know, motors motors got 4 or 5 different big pieces, we'll call them, that they're only allowed to change. Certain you get about three to four depending on the part of the engine for the whole entire year. You go over that, you take a grid penalty. And it's just kind of inevitable these last couple of years. It seems like that everyone is going to have to take a grid penalty almost at some point. um, Basically dump a whole new engine in there, make sure you don't have any issues. And honestly, it's probably frustrating as a team knowing that you're gonna have to start from the back. But as a fan, you kind of know throughout the year you're gonna get one or two of these races where one of these fast drivers is gonna start in the back. They usually specifically do it on a track that allows for a lot of passing, just in case, so they can make up time. Spa this weekend is a great pace to pass, so that's why so many teams went with this weekend to take their engine penalties. So 5 people taking engine penalties, and we kind of knew this before qualifying. We had Verstappen, Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Lando Norris, Mick Schumacher. It looked like Joe Guan Yu and Yuki, all taking penalties. So we knew that going into qualifying that all these guys were going to taking penalties. Sometimes if you get one or two people that are taking penalties, especially back of the grid penalties, there's no need for them to try in qualifying. I think you saw in France, Carlos Sainz was going to start in the back. So he gets through Q1, gets through Q2, basically to be in Q3 to help his teammate Charles Leclerc get a tow, and to help Charles Leclerc qualify first. But there was no matter what Carlos did, it didn't matter. He didn't need to run any laps in Q3 because he was going to start 19th or 20th. I think Kevin Magnussen took a grid penalty with him there. But this weekend, when you have 5 people taking back a grid penalties, qualifying matters, which made things exciting. You knew maybe some of these big names are going to the back, but it's the difference between, are you going to start 15th? Or are you going to start 20th? So, I'm going to pull up qualifying here so we can go over that. But looking at qualifying here, Max Verstappen, first fastest. Carlos Sainz second. Sergio Perez third. Charles Leclerc fourth. Esteban Ocon fifth. Before we go any further, Max Verstappen taking a grid penalty, but he qualifies first. So where does he end up starting? 15th place. That's why it matters, because he didn't start 20th place. But what was crazy is that Carlos Sainz starting in second, or qualifying second. His teammate Charles Leclerc qualifies fourth fastest. But Charles Leclerc was out there trying to give Carlos Sainz a tow, to try to get Carlos Sainz even a little bit faster, just in case Sergio Perez picked up some speed. But it didn't matter. Max, this whole entire weekend through practice, through qualifying, looked insanely fast. Car looked like it was on a different planet. Drive, it looked like he was on that same planet. Everything, all the stars were aligned. Max was just incredibly fast. If you look at this right now, a 143.6. All right, fastest lap in Q3 for Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz runs a 144.29. All right, almost 6 tenths faster than second place. Just insanely fast he looked all weekend. Red Bull is on their game. If you get into it, You go back some years, Ferrari has a long stretch of dominance. Then it's a little choppy. Then you get Red Bull gets 3 or 4 years where they're just dominant. And Sebastian Vettel locked in. You kind of knew they're the fastest car. Then you get Mercedes. The last 8 years won the construction championship in a row. Now Max wins last year. It's looking like Max's year again. This Red Bull car is just insanely fast. Eventually there is a turnaround where these, teams drop off a little bit and someone else steps up to that top step, but it's just this car is looking ridiculously fast. But qualifying, Carlos Sainz second, Sergio Perez third, Charles Leclerc qualifies fourth. Remember, he's taken a grid penalty. Esteban Ocon qualifies fifth. He's taken a grid penalty. Fernando Alonso sixth, Lewis Hamilton seventh, George Russell eighth. And then the big shocker on the weekend was kind of Alex Albon taking ninth for Williams. A funniest meme I saw was the Williams car was the fastest on the straightaway through the speed traps. So it made him very hard to pass. Spa has like a couple big straightaways, so it made his car fast. But I don't know if you guys seen the meme of Steve Carell shaking the guy's hand, and it's like Steve Carell in The Office when he was like not his main character, not Michael Scott, like we would normally see him, but a throwback photo. And he's shaking someone's hand. And it's like, Williams top line speed, but then it's like Williams not being able to get a handle on the downforce all these races. And this is kind of the one track where it made him look good. Anyways, impressive time. They out-qualified, I think, the Mercedes in Q2, which it put everyone on shock. You get Lando Norris 10th, taking grid penalties. And so on. So you go to your starting grid here, which usually would be pretty much the same as the qualifying finish order, but it's not here. As you see, you got all Spanish top three. Carlos Sainz first, Sergio Perez second, Fernando Alonso third, Hamilton fourth, Russell fifth, Alex Albon's up in sixth, Ricardo seventh. Pierre Gasly actually ends up starting from pit lane, so that's actually something to note because he had himself a day. And then you get the two Aston Martins, 9th and 10th. So that's your starting grid. You look back a little bit further. Verstappen, because he qualified first, 14th. Leclerc, he's here sitting in 15th spot. Ocon, 16th spot. Lando, 17th. Zhou Guanyu, 18th. Mick Schumacher, 19th. And Yuki, 20th. So those are those back guys. But Max Verstappen starts the race 14th place because of that. Big thing that happened on lap 1, and unless you live under a rock, big crash between Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. I'm going to show you the footage. It's funny because it's so big that I didn't get to see the race live. I recorded it. I stayed off all my devices to make sure I didn't see anything, no spoilers. But I saw a buddy of mine who's kind of just into Formula 1 because of me. And the first thing he says when he saw me before I got a chance to see the race was, "Did you see the big crash?" And then I had to be like, yo, stop. Don't say anymore. I haven't watched it yet. And he didn't. So I go home to watch the race. I got pizza, a seltzer. I'm so excited to watch the race. I got race on my television. I got Lewis Hamilton's on board. And then so we go down into, go through Eau Rouge down into, hold up here. All right. So down the long straightaway, Lewis Hamilton gets a run on the outside. Fernando Alonso on the inside here takes the corner. And as you can see, there's just no room to be had. So sends Lewis Hamilton, we'll watch it here, sends Lewis Hamilton up into the air. Lewis Hamilton continues. I think if you kind of know racing, you're like, there's no chance that car is good. He continued for longer than I thought, which was impressive. But just watch the accident one more time. Initially, being the diehard Lewis Hamilton fan I am, I was so upset. But listen, if you watch, there's what Fernando's on the curb. He didn't bounce off the curb. He's in complete control. Lewis didn't give him any room. It was very evident in the second replay that Lewis kind of turned in on him there. Lewis owned up to it right away. I think that, in the first interview he didn't need to, sometimes an apology will come out midweek. This was right away. He apologized for what he did wrong. I think the bigger topic here, if you weren't watching the race or if you hadn't seen it, Fernando Alonso makes a comment on the radio that this guy, what an idiot. He only knows how to drive when he starts from the front. And I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Everyone has their opinion. I think Lewis is arguably the GOAT, so that's fine. I just think it's really big for people to comment on like radio messages from any driver when you've never been in a race car. It's hard. Like, people just don't understand what's going on in this moment. The adrenaline rush that I've talked about before that these drivers go through for an hour and a half, that does not stop sometimes if there's no cautions. And even so, you're planning your next move, but you don't come off the field and let offense go on and recruit, kind of regain your thoughts. This is full speed. We're over 100 plus miles an hour for most of the lap. And in the heat of the moment, that comments made that he only knows how to start from the front. Obviously Lewis heard it. He said he was on his way to apologize to Fernando. Lewis saying, now I know how he feels about me. I'm not going to go say anything to him. I think Lewis is probably hot at that moment, but I think people take things out of context way too much when a driver says something, in the heat of a moment. Then they have a video of Fernando driving by later, waving his fingers. It's just, it happens. It's the heat of the moment. I think it's absurd to, really put this on Fernando, and I think people are going to make it a bigger deal than it is. I actually have some stats here because I am the Lewis fan, big fan. So Lewis's first year in Formula One was with McLaren. So he's young. I believe he's a 22-year-old rookie. And his teammate is Fernando Alonso. And if we look, this is Lewis's first year, and it's definitely not Fernando's first year. Fernando, 1, 2, 3, 4 wins that year. Rookie, Lewis Hamilton. Rookie, 1, 2, 3, 4 wins. Okay? Not to mention 1, 2, 3, 4 second places for Fernando. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 second places for Lewis. So I think Fernando knows in the same equipment that Lewis can handle his own. That I believe that, I think that comment's, a little angry that maybe Lewis has 8 championships and Fernando doesn't. But I think that's blown way out of context. I bet you they'll be fine soon. Listen, Fernando's been in some good cars too, to have a chance to win races and championships. He's been in a Ferrari before, and he's had his opportunity. So I wouldn't be hating on Lewis like he is in that moment. Seriously, I think it's just a heat of the moment comment that can't be taken out of shouldn't be taken out of context. But your big thing here is that the Max Verstappen starting 14th, 15th place, Lewis goes on a little bit more in that lap, pulls over to the side, which causes a safety car. At that point, Max Verstappen's in very high up. I forget what it is, but he's very high up. I almost want to say he's at least as high as 10th place, I believe, at that point. And there's a safety car. They have a crazy video potentially of he taking off a tear-off. So helmets have tear-offs. It's basically a thin strip of clear, not paper, obviously, it's not a good word, but it's a thing you tear off, so if bugs get on it, you're getting rid of the bugs because there's no windshields in these cars. Bugs, dirt, debris, whatever it may be. And potentially that tear-off landing in Charles Leclerc's, who's also coming from the back with Max Verstappen, into his brake duct. Charles coming on the radio and saying, I got smoke coming out of my brake duct, not knowing it was potentially just a tear-off. So he came into the pit in this first safety car. That puts him all the way to the back. Now how racing works, on a start, everyone's all bunched up. After the safety car restart, now instead of cars being staggered and cars going too wide and you kind of, the field being a little closer, now the field starts off single file. So now your distance from the leader is greater. And then once the racing gets started, a little bit more single file racing, not so much side-by-side action, is going to cause the cars to spread out even more. So now at this point, Charles Leclerc had to pit because of that. Goes on to a set of mediums, I believe. and is now in a different strategy than Max Verstappen. And it was looking like, maybe one of them two are going to be the guy. First stint, Carlos Sainz is in first. Perez is second. As the laps go on, Max makes his way right up to third, passes for second. I don't have the pit stop chart this week. I couldn't find it, of the different strategies that were played out. But it was no-brainer that Max was looking like the fastest car. He got himself to third, to second, and then eventually overtook for the race lead. And when he overtook, I believe it was after his first pit stop, so you kind of knew that the race was... It's not like he was like the only guy who hadn't pitted and the top 6 pitted, and once he pitted, he would be down to 7th. Like, when he overtook the lead, you knew that it was game over. I kind of had a feeling that he would do good. I thought there was potential that he could win, especially after that crash in the first safety car, and he was already where he was. But to be so dominant, he was looking disgustingly good this weekend. So then the race kind of came down from, like, after that, a lot of the attention was on second to fourth place. Carlos Sainz is in second. Ferrari doing the best they can. Sergio Perez just ends up being faster after some pit stuff. Sergio Perez gets ahead of Carlos Sainz. And then the rest of the race, you kind of see George Russell tracking down Carlos Sainz, getting within about a second and a half, I believe was the closest he got to him, but not being able to pass him. One thing as a big Mercedes guy follower, it looked like on the first stint when Max was in first, Sainz second, Perez third, George was in fourth, that George was catching Perez. And then everyone pits, and then shortly Perez takes over second, so it's Max, Perez, Sainz, Russell. Then Russell is catching Russell is catching Sainz. They pit Sainz. They pit Russell a few laps later, so because Sainz got a fresher tire earlier, so he increased the gap. Mercedes is hoping that at the end of the run, Sainz's tires will go away, Russell's will be a few laps fresher, and Russell will be able to pass Carlos Sainz. That never ended up happening. But, as a Mercedes guy, with hindsight, because it's easy for me to sit in this chair and talk about the race after it's done, it almost looked like, pace-wise, I'd be interested to go back and see lap after lap after the last pit stop what their lap times were, but it almost seems like Mercedes could have maybe pitted early, put some pressure on Perez, and then they definitely almost could have pitted early and then put a lot of pressure on Carlos Sainz and Ferrari to make a decision. And if you've been paying attention this year, when Ferrari's back's against the wall, they can't make a decision to save their life, unfortunately, right now. So, as the Mercedes guys watching, I thought like George Russell could have even done better than fourth. I think fourth was like a safe bet that since they started, I believe he started sixth. It's kind of a safe play. Hamilton wrecks out. I'm sure they just wanted to get some team points. And it's easier to sit back here. Maybe they would pit him early. Everyone else would have stayed out. They would have thrown him off strategy. He could have lost position behind. But, they got to a point, too, where Leclerc pit, George Russell pit, and that last stint, everyone's kind of on the same, let's call it page. Everyone's done their last pit stop in the top 5. And you kind of expected Charles Leclerc with this fast Ferrari to catch Russell, and he wasn't. Russell was putting in phenomenal lap times, catching Sainz, and pulling away from Leclerc. So that was pretty interesting middle stint of the race. I'm going to take us back to the website here to kind of look at the race result to talk about everything that we saw at the end here. So you got Max Verstappen first, Sergio Perez second, third, Sainz, fourth is Russell. So again, if you were watching the race, oh man, I don't know any other sports, any other organization where such an incompetent team, no changes get made. I haven't heard of technical directors or their race strategists or their chief engineer. I have not heard of any changes at Ferrari, but they keep making mistake after mistake after mistake. And I'm not a Ferrari fan, so it's kind of, some of their stuff stinks as if you're just a racing fan in general. You're like, they're like almost messing up the sport with some of their decisions that they make. But if you're a Ferrari fan, I don't know how you're not breaking your television every single week when you see some of this stuff. So with a handful of laps left, Charles Leclerc is in the top 10, meaning he can come, or if you're in the top 10, you can get the fastest lap of the race, which gives you one additional point. So with a few laps left, they pit Charles Leclerc to put on softs to get him fastest lap of the race. I mean, it's pretty simple. They have like the gaps and the GPS. They know how long a pit stop takes. They pit Leclerc. He comes out not ahead of Fernando Alonso, which is absolutely insane because you only have a lap or two left. You kind of need clear track to get the fastest lap. Fernando keeps him behind a lap. I think Charles passes him on the last lap. No big deal. You're kind of like, gee, like, why would you even go for it? You risk losing a place, which you're going to lose more points losing a place than you would gain that 1 point for fastest lap. So it doesn't make sense to ever lose a place to gain fastest lap. You only pit kind of for fastest lap if you're fourth or fifth. If you have a big enough pit window behind you to come in comfortably and go out. So Charles passes Fernando on track, comes across the line fifth. Then come to find out that because of this unnecessary fastest lap that he didn't even get, Max Verstappen kept the fastest lap. He got a 5-second time penalty for being 1 kilometer per hour over the speed limit in pits. 5-second time penalty, and ends up finishing behind Fernando Alonso. Like, wow, what are they doing? It's embarrassing. I mean, I'm like a new Formula One fan, and I'm a big fan. I'm sure some of you guys may be newer fans too. Like, you're still learning a lot of things. But, like, this is, like, basic. This is, like, you look at your gap. Do you have enough gap? And not just, like, do you have enough gap, like, okay, this will be close. Like, do you have, if he comes out, like, an extra 3 to 4 seconds in case something goes wrong in the pits, and he can still come out with clear track and get this fastest lap? Like, what? Like, whatever their gap to Fernando was had to be very thin, and I don't understand why they thought it would be a good deal to push the issue. And you know, it ends up costing them a place. If you're Leclerc, I don't know how you're not furious. What I also think, I mean, I think you're going to see it from Max and Red Bull, but, like, this is what makes, like, the championship runs that Schumacher, Vettel, Hamilton have been on so great that, like, to put in the consistency race after race, you have to be good. The car has to be durable, and the team has to make smart decisions. Like, we're watching Charles Leclerc crash out from the lead of the race. We're watching his car break from winning races. We're watching his team strategist mess up from, you know, top 5. Like, that's not a championship winning team at all. Like, in the beginning of the year, it was kind of like, ooh, this might be exciting. Now it's like, no, you can clearly see plain as day that this team doesn't have what it takes to win the championship. And that's the Charles Leclerc or Ferrari rant. I just don't understand. I feel bad for Leclerc. I know he's made some mistakes as a driver, so it's kind of like, well, he's made mistakes, the team has made mistakes, but oh man, I just want better for him. I kind of like some of these young guys, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris. I like these young guys. I want to see them do good. Ocon, again, he's kind of been my just steady. Him and Alonso for Alpine, they're really doing good. I think Sebastian Vettel had a great drive this week. Made some tires last in some long stints. Was really nice. Pierre Gasly, I don't know if you remember, started from pit lane. Okay? Pit lane. That is not advantageous. 9th place. And then Alex Albon scores 1 point for Williams, his 3rd point finish of the year. I think he's driving lights out in 10th. McLaren. They struggled a little bit down here in 12th and 15th, especially when Danny Rick started in 7th. So that was kind of a shame to see. But, yeah, and because of this race, we'll take a look at standings over here. Max Verstappen, 284 points. That's crazy. Like, absolutely nuts. Over, Sergio Perez's 191. Again, this is totally his to lose. I don't even know what the math is there. It's a little nuts. What am I looking at? What is that? It's a 93-point lead, I believe. 93-point lead. Again, do your math. You could win the race Fastest lap, that's race win is 25 points. Fastest lap is 1 point. That's 26. All right. He could, I believe, lose the next 4 races and still be close to first. And that's what, like, when you say things like that, like Max Verstappen isn't going to score 0 points in the next 4 races. He might not win the next 4 races. I mean, it sure looks like he is. But he's not going to get, so it's really in the way he's maturing. Everyone commented on it. He played the first couple laps slow, safe. He knew he had a fast car. No need to push it. He's kind of looking like a champion right now. That race moved Sergio Perez up to second, Charles Leclerc in third, Carlos Sainz fourth. My guys here, Mercedes fifth and sixth. I think George Russell his consistency is absolutely nuts. Sorry, put this on the screen, get my camera out of the way. 171 points. So he went down a spot to Carlos Sainz because Carlos Sainz beat him. But he's only 1 spot away from Sainz. And I think in the bigger picture, he's only 16 points away from Leclerc. That's 1 for a DNF, which is not unheard of, and like a second or a third place finish. Not to mention, Perez has his ups and downs. I think that you'll see much more consistency in the remainder of the year from him than you will Leclerc. But this is not like out of the picture here for George Russell to slide into third in the driver standings this year, which we're talking about a driver who drove around in 19th and 20th the past couple years for Williams, all of a sudden up here in third with his amazing streak of top 5 finishes, I believe, I think the stat is now because he wrecked at Silverstone, is every race he's finished in the top 5, which is just amazing consistency. Seeing as like Sainz has won a race, Leclerc has won a race, Sergio Perez has won a race. So like you're sitting up there without a race win, right in the fight with the top 3. Pretty good. Bad points day for Lewis Hamilton, obviously 146. So, I mean, you're looking at a 24-point gap to Russell. That might be hard to close with seeing how consistent Russell is. But he's comfortable. It's crazy, the fall off between that and then, looking at Lando with 76, Esteban with 64, Fernando with 51. So, we're in the second half of the year. Look at constructors, because I think this is interesting too. So, we're looking at Red Bull 475. Ferrari 357, Mercedes 316. All right, so again, we're 49 points. No, I don't think that math is right. 39 points out from Ferrari there. So that's a very close battle for second. If you don't know, the big money that comes from Formula One comes from the team's placement in the constructors. So this is very important about who gets that moolah at the end of the year. I still think Red Bull will walk away with it. The sport's really crazy for like race wins. Like if you do the math, like if a race win is here, let's go back to because as much as I like to know, I don't know all the points. So race win is 25. He got that extra point because of the fastest lap. So 26 points. Let's say like Max won and then Ferrari finishes second and third. All they get is 33 points compared to Max's 25. So let's say Max wins, they get second and third. That math is right, 33. Yeah, 25. Let's say they get second and third and Perez wrecks out, doesn't get any points. You only lose 8 points. That's how important that 26-point victory is. So like a second and third is a good day, but you gain 8 points. And then in a situation like this, where Max Verstappen got the fastest lap, you'd only gain 7 points. So it's just something to think about when you look at how massive, this gap between Ferrari and Mercedes is small, but this gap is massive, especially when, race wins just hold so much weight, as they should. That's why racing's cool. You put 20 drivers out there and only one can win. So he deserves the most amount of points. Going back, Alpine's consistency really 115. McLaren, their ups and downs, 20 points behind them. Alfa Romeo 51, Haas 34. AlphaTauri, they have an up and down season as well. 29, Aston Martin 24, and then Williams. That's, by the way, all There you go. You can see that one. Williams, that's all Alex Albon. All 4 points, all by himself. So yeah, that was the race weekend. Pretty exciting. I enjoyed the race. There was a lot of 2-3 stop strategies, which the thing I say is that the more pit stops, the more exciting the race is going to be, because of strategy wise. So you had 2-3 pit stops for a lot of teams. The midfield battle, that was very. You had to be on it to know like who had pitted and who was where until the last. Even because like Ricardo pitted for mediums with like 5 or 6 to go. Which usually you pit a little bit before that, so you have time to use those fresh mediums to attack with fast laps. So really, everyone was all over the place. Then you had a DRS train because Alex Albon was so fast in a straight line that even though guys behind him had DRS, they couldn't pass him, which kept I think there was one point like 10th to 15th was all like DRS trained in a very short distance, doing what they could. So that battle was pretty elbows out. But good weekend back at Spa. So we look forward to next week where the Netherlands Grand Prix. Zandvoort. I'm not a huge fan up front of the race. Last year, you gotta go. Shouts out Reddit, always has good stuff here. So I'm not a fan because I don't think there's a lot of passing. There's one DRS zone down the front stretch, which it's like not front stretch isn't as long as it needs to be. Pretty much if you're behind someone, the rest. Oh no, it has 2 DRS zones. Excuse me. The second one is even shorter than a front stretch. It's kind of one of those DRS zones. Sometimes tracks have they have their main DRS zone, which they know is going to be the passing zone, and this other DRS zone, which isn't big enough to pass, but it'll pull a cart up to the guy in front. Hopefully he can stay behind with the last couple turns because that's where it is in Zandvoort. So DRS zone kind of meant to pull you close, stay behind, and then maybe pass down the second DRS zones. That's how they do that. Sometimes they do it's like, we kind of know not many people are going to pass in this DRS zone, but it should get them close enough that they can pass down the other DRS zone. This track being Zandvoort being down there front stretch. So there wasn't a lot of passing last year. If you remember Max Verstappen, it's his home race. So yeah, the Orange Army comes out crazy. Maybe I can pull something up while I'm talking to you guys here. When he finished and they lit off the orange flares, it's pretty cool. Like, you got to give it. The Red Bull fans come out, so much passion, but not a lot of passing. So it's like pit strategy, which is cool, but sometimes like pit strategy, like Monaco, like that race is like exciting until everyone pits, and they usually only pit once because there's not a lot of tire wear, and then the races follow the leader for the rest of the race. So I enjoy that, but then once that pits cycle happens, it's kind of like this is the race. So always gotta give it up to Reddit. So last year there was 24 overtakes. All right, at the Dutch Grand Prix. All right, 21 overtakes. Then they made a chart. This is all last year. Bahrain had 75, Imola had 41, Portugal had 43, Spain had 51. Baku had 27, France had 60, Austria 38, Great Britain 28, Hungary 18, Netherlands 24. So the only race that had less overtakes, and then we were tied over here, is Hungary. So I'm sure Monaco had like 0 overtakes that year. But so there's not a lot of overtakes. Cool thing is though, they're talking about opening the DRS further back. This track has a couple bank turns, which you usually don't see in Formula One. A lot of the turns are flat, so adding banking to some of these turns is cool. So the turn before the front stretch, they might push the DRS zone back there a little bit, which might allow for a little bit more overtaking, which is cool. Zandvoort also offers a very cool turn 3 banking. Now this video is 3 seconds, so I hope you guys watch the race to see how cool this. You kind of gotta maybe see it. I think this camera view is cool. That's why I'm showing this video. But this is Sebastian Vettel ripping through there, I believe. No, if it was last year, it was definitely not him. Charles Leclerc, 16. But ripping through this bank turn. And you can kind of if you take it high, keep a little bit more momentum, but you can stick your nose. It's kind of down low, but you're not going to get a good run coming off. But the banking's here serious, and the way the these guys kind of ride the top and then it shoots them out up the hill. It's a pretty cool turn three. Track may not have a lot of passing, but sometimes it's just kind of about having, cool turns in some history. So as I open up the mail app by accident and you guys see my notes because our printer is broken. Yeah. So last race, Max absolutely dominates. I don't know. He won by way too much time. I think Hamilton kind of slotted in a second. That's where he was. For F1 just posted on their Instagram a good battle that Perez and Norris had through turns 1 through really turns 1 through like 5 or 6. That would be cool to see that. So that's this weekend. Like I said, I'm hoping for more passes than last year. If not, this is kind of what makes Formula 1 cool is that, like, you can't think the racing's boring. Everyone has their own opinion. But when we go to a track that's, like, maybe not that much passing, I, as a fan, is like, okay, so now qualifying is not, like, just qualifying. It's like, all right, this is, like, all of our eggs are in this basket. Like, if you qualify good, we're going to run good because the chances that you getting passed are not very good. So it makes, like, those Saturdays more important. So make sure you fire up a good breakfast on Saturdays. Don't want to miss qualifying. Especially if Crofty and Martin are on the call. They'll make it super exciting. So that's this week. This little news, Schumacher is done with Ferrari. Partnership. He obviously doesn't race for Ferrari. He races for Haas. But these guys have, like, partnerships through, like, junior programs, and he's done with that. It's also being rumored that he might not be in the Haas seat next year. So the only kind of open seats right now are Williams, which would not be an upgrade. But the Alpine seat's open. Obviously, there's talk about Danny Rick going there. Maybe Danny Rick could go to Haas if Mick leaves. So, like, between now and next year, obviously, which is such a long time, I think we're going to find out, like, some very good information about who's going where in that situation. So, Zandvoort this weekend. I think that's all I had to say. One thing. So the theme of the year between Red Bull and Ferrari is that Red Bull, more downforce. So their cars have been handling a little bit better on smaller tracks or tracks with more turns. Monaco, for instance, they were the faster. Like Max, like it's almost crazy now. Like if Max doesn't win, there's like a problem. His car has a problem. But like just Monaco straight up, like he qualified I think 3rd or 4th. He ran 3rd or 4th in the race. Like it just was what it was. But Ferrari are faster on these tracks like Monaco. Probably Zandvoort, seeing as it doesn't have a lot of long straights, a lot more turns. So Ferrari should go into the weekend with an advantage against Red Bull if we just follow the trend of the year. Not saying Red Bull can't come out with something. And then the following week, Ferrari's home race, Monza, which is the big one for them, is a high-speed track, which usually favors less downforce, which is what Red Bull is running. So if you listen to Carlos Sainz, he kind of knows that maybe Zandvoort might play to their car a little bit more than Monza will the next weekend. So that's kind of cool going in because I still think Verstappen's going to pull out a win. Let's see. You guys give me any thoughts you got whatsoever as I'm going to try to pull up a video of Max crossing the line last year and the orange smoke going off because I think it was cool just to have a fan base that dedicated. And of course, since I'm pulling this up on YouTube, we're going through a nice ad right now. Let's see how YouTube does with this video for me. Max coming across the line. Look at that. Look at that orange smoke with the fireworks that come down. Woo! The theatrics. How does that not get, like, if you love racing, I know I probably, like, that race was like a snooze fest. It was a snooze fest. But, like, that part doesn't give you goosebumps. I don't know what does. Jeez Louise. It's your home race. You come across. Get orange smokes in the air. They line up the fireworks to hit. Oh man, you gotta love racing. I don't know how you don't, but that's okay. This is a racing channel. If you're here, you probably like racing. So yes, that's that. All right, yeah. So that's Formula One. All things racing. Wearing my David Gravel shirt, World of Outlaws driver. It's our guy. Couple races this past weekend. River City Speedway, which was like I watched this race. It was a bull ring. It was pretty cool. Brad Sweet wins. David Gravel finishes second. Carson Macedo third. Donnie Schatz fourth. Gravel fan, we're second in points to Brad Sweet, so we really need anyone to win but Brad Sweet. But if Brad's going to win, I guess it's best that David finishes second. So he's keeping that points battle tight. And then they went to Red River Valley Speedway. So they were in North Dakota for both races. Carson Macedo wins that race. Second place is this kid, Ryan Timms. I think he's like 16 years old. 15, 16. All I know is that he needed like a special, like, you have to go through like a special like permit or like license to be that young to race with the World of Outlaws. And he didn't like start second and finish second. He started, I believe, fourth. Had to pass my guy David and Brad to get that second spot. So he's looking insanely impressive. Like he's the Max Verstappen potentially of World of Outlaws. Just young kid coming in, taking over. And that is, it's cool to see. Young talent. Sweet got third. David got fourth. So obviously one spot behind. So keeping that points battle still tight. You never know. World of Outlaws, anything could happen. Then I believe I did not watch the Xfinity race. I believe Jeremy Clemens won. All I know is that a Facebook friend of mine was at the race. He posted that the race ended after like 1 a.m. I believe there was like crazy long rain delays. Then the NASCAR race on Sunday. Saturday night gets rained out. Sunday, it's just funny. So Sunday morning, the race happens. I miss it. I watch Formula One race. I go to YouTube to look up the highlights. Can't find the highlights, which is rare because they're usually like there like that. I turn on MSNBC because there was the IMSA race on, and they're showing the race, and it says from earlier with X amount of laps to go in stage 2. So I'm like, oh, they must be replaying the race. I don't know why they're not showing the IMSA race, but they must be replaying the race. Then they finish the stage, and then I look up, and they cut to like a live shot that they're under rain delay. So this whole weekend is just rain crazy. And then when you watch what happens, the whole field wrecked because there was rain. You watch the leaders going into 1 and 2 wrecked. So everyone's got junk equipment. Austin Dillon makes it through with very minimal damage. They go back to racing with like 12 or 20 to go. I forget what it is. I believe it was like 21 to go. But then after all the caution laps, it was like around 15. Austin Dillon wins the race. So the NASCAR playoffs are set now. You're looking at Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, and Austin Dillon all going into the playoffs for NASCAR. So that should get exciting. I believe they have some good tracks too in the playoff schedule. We're a fan of Kyle Larson on the show because he's an absolute wheel man. Absolutely disgusting. If you don't know, he races NASCAR. He hops in the World of Outlaws cars and wins in that, wins in NASCAR, wins in a late model, wins in a 600 micro sprint, would probably win if you put him in a shopping cart in a grocery store. He's that dominant. So yeah, that's all things racing. I don't know what else we got racing wise going on. I think that's about it. So I've been looking at the call-in feature. It's I don't want to say it's like harder than I thought, but like there's a 1 or 2 ways. Like I could take calls through Discord, but I don't know that like many people know what Discord is, or like I feel like they'd be frustrating. But it's not just like I haven't found that's like, oh hey, just set up a number that you can call like through a website app, and I don't want to put my phone number on the internet for people to call. So I'm working on the call-in feature because I think it'll be good. I got some new graphics to roll out next week, but they're not, or you probably saw the header today, that was new, but they're nothing too fancy. They're kind of just like before stream, ending stream. graphics there. So I got to say the thing I hate to say most. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate everyone that watches. I'm meeting more Formula One fans everywhere, which is good. Let's talk in person if you see me. I'll just we can diarrhea of the mouth about Formula One, to be honest with you. So just let me know if you want to talk about it. And I think that's all that I got. I did a little live practice watch. Not really, no. Maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we won't. Just trying to build up that community where kind of all sitting, watching, chatting. Maybe, you got me on, but you got me muted maybe, and you're watching it and you just want to throw something in chat to hear what I have to say or to get other people's opinions. Just trying to build the channel, just trying to grow, still trying to figure out what we are as a stream. So I just appreciate everyone for watching. Like I said, like and subscribe, and everyone just enjoy your weeks. God bless.